Yo, welcome back to the channel. Kamusta po sa inyong lahat? So, I want to revisit something I said in my previous video. I mentioned that Luuk Herssen had essentially power crept Jinhsi and that even his lower investment team could outperform her. After thinking about it more, I realized there was one variation I had not properly tested. So instead of running Jinhsi and Shorekeper with Shorekeper, which has been the standard pairing for a very long time, I wanted to see what would happen if I replaced Shorekeper with Mornier. And I also ran that comparable setup to Luuk to keep things fair. Now, I am not trying to overhype Luuk here. My goal is simply to present the results as clearly as possible so you can decide for yourself whether he is a worthwhile investment. These are the numbers and outcomes based on my testing, and I tried my best to be objective about it, and you can interpret them however you see fit. But after testing, I can confidently say that Mornier makes a very noticeable difference for Jinhsi. But before we continue, just a quick word about our friends over at U75. Get cheaper than in-game top-ups using only your UID and server region. You can also opt to a much cheaper pricing with their traditional top-up system, which you will have to give your password for. So AI, please continue.
If you want a smarter way to stretch your Lunites and Asterites without feeling like your wallet just lost a boss fight, check out my U7 buy link in the description and pinned comments and use my code VeeDizzy. They're the only top-up site that can deliver your purchase directly using only your UID and server through what they call trusted top-up. No passwords required. No manual do-it-yourself top-ups, just a smooth, worry-free process delivered straight to your account. They handle the top-up securely while you stay in control of your account. U7 Buy has been operating since 2003, and they've expanded into the gacha space with some of the most competitive top-up pricing available for Wuthering Waves, offering savings of up to 26% compared to in-game prices. They currently hold a 4.7 rating on Trustpilot, and most top-ups are completed in under 5 minutes, which means less waiting and more time actually playing. If you want cheaper top-ups while keeping your account safe, use my link in the description and pinned comments, or use my code VeeDizzy on U7 Buy. It's a practical way to save on top-ups while supporting the channel. Spend responsibly, or don't, that part is on you. Now, back to the topic.
With Mornier in place of Shorekeper, Jinhsi's clear time improved by roughly 20 seconds compared to the older setup. In fact, she is barely able to 3-star. That is a meaningful gain. Her Forte circuit nuke also increased by around 70 to 80,000 damage. The rotation feels smoother and her damage window feels more consistent. So yes, Mornier elevates Jinhsi's performance. However, when I compared the total output to Luuk's teams, the overall gap still remains. Jinhsi, Shorekeper, and Mornier end up dealing roughly the same total damage as Luuk, Sanhua, and Shorekeper, which is considered one of Luuk's lower investment compositions. And when I tested Luuk with Shorekeper and Mornier, he still cleared about 2 seconds faster. At high levels of optimization, 2 seconds is significant. It reflects differences in sustained output and rotation efficiency. Again, it won't be until next week when I fully optimize my Luuk, and he is using Pulsation Bracer right now rather than his signature, unlike my Jinhsi, who has her signature weapon. So what makes this especially interesting is that Jinhsi should, in theory, gain more from Shorekeper than Luuk does. Her incandescence mechanic heavily amplifies her damage when fully stacked, and Shorekeper directly supports that identity. Luuk does not scale up that same synergy in the same way, so even so, he maintains the lead. Another important takeaway from this testing is what it means for Shorekeper. And for a very long time, Shorekeper has been viewed as Jinhsi's default or best-in-slot sustainer, with Mornier proving to be more competitive and in some cases contributing more overall damage and faster rotations. Shorekeper now feels more like an alternative option rather than a mandatory one. So this reflects a broader shift in the game's direction. Newer characters are arriving with faster kits, more layered buffs, and mechanics that align well with the current pace of endgame content. Older units are still functional. Uh, don't get me wrong, they can still clear, you can still 3-star certain content, but they are working within older design frameworks. The difference is also visible in echo sets. Early 5P sets tend to provide straightforward elemental damage bonuses. Now, newer sets are more specialized, often built around specific skill loops or unit mechanics, and that added synergy can translate into noticeable performance gains. So, if Jinshi had a more tailored echo set, such as one that probably enhances Resonance Liberation after skill usage and then further amplifies skills after Liberation casting, her overall damage ceiling could increase significantly. Small mechanical incentives like that can reshape how a unit scales over time. It is also worth noting that the current effects of the Tower of Adversity does not particularly favor Spectral. The buffs are not ideally aligned with Jinshi's or Luke's strength, so this may not represent their absolute best scenario. When the reset arrives and the effects change, the comparison could look slightly different. That said, based on current testing and clear times, Luuk Herssen is ahead in total output. This does not make Jinshi obsolete. No, she is still fully capable of clearing difficult content and achieving 3 stars. In the hands of a player who manages incandescence well, she performs reliably. But when focusing strictly on damage totals and clear speed, Luke currently has the advantage. Whether using a premium setup or a more accessible team, he consistently clears faster even without his signature weapon. You may prefer one playstyle over the other, and that is completely valid. Burst focused gameplay and sustained pressure offer different experiences. However, from a performance standpoint measured by time, rotation stability, and total damage contribution across the entire run, Luke is setting the current benchmark. When you look at sustained pressure, how quickly he cycles through his kit, and how consistently he maintains output without relying on a single burst window, the advantage becomes clearer. That is simply where things stand right now based on the current tower rotation, my present builds, and the team configurations available. This is not theorycraft on paper. These are repeated runs, side-by-side comparisons, and actual clear times recorded under similar conditions. I know some of you will not agree with this and may interpret it differently, and that is completely fine. Meta discussions are always evolving, but at the end of the day, the most objective reference point we have is gameplay performance. The stopwatch does not really care about preferences, and the damage logs reflect what actually happens during the run. As always, if this video resonated with you, please leave a like and subscribe, ring that bell for massive gotcha luck and maybe a sandwich. Thank you so much for watching. Maraming salamat po, and I will see you in my next video drop. Goodbye.